How can you tell when it's time to walk away from a relationship? In this lesson, I'm going to teach you how to understand and properly use deal breakers. What is a deal breaker, how to set them, and how to implement them. I'm going to go through a list of all the righteous deal breakers you need to understand. In a nutshell, what you are going to get in this video is the prevention and the cure to relationship failure. Prevention, because if you are watching this as a single man, you can go into a relationship or start courting and dating a girl with the right mindset, with the correct values, so that if you spot incompatibility, red flags, or lack of genuine desire, you can walk away safely from the get-go, which minimizes your risk of failure, stops you from wasting any more time and money, and it prevents heartbreak. Very simple. And the cure, for those of you watching who are in a relationship, perhaps you've been getting to know a girl for a few weeks, a couple months, maybe even a few years, but you're not married yet, and there have been a few problems there and you're not sure how to proceed. Should you marry her? Should you walk away? Well, this video is also going to give you the answer so that you can make the right decision and stop wasting any more time. Ultimately, as I teach, prevention is better than cure. But some of you are in a situation where the woman you are with is wrong for you and you've got to walk away. And for those of you who are married, it's not my place. You just have to deal with that yourself. So for the guys watching, whether you're single, you're getting to know a girl, your boyfriend, girlfriend, it's getting serious, you need to know this stuff. Because you need 100% crystal clear assurance that you're going to marry the girl. And if the answer is no, you have to walk away. Because if you don't, you're going to hurt not just yourself, but her as well. You're hurting another human being by staying in a relationship that should have ended a long time ago. Or worse, as you're getting to know each other and you're just going to go along with it to try and make her happy because you're too afraid to walk away, you're also going to hurt each other in the long run. So you have to take this stuff seriously. I cannot count the amount of case studies that are on relearning relationships where men and women have wasted years of their lives. Or worse, they've gotten married and have had children with the wrong spouse. It's a mess, and it doesn't have to be that way. You can do it the right way. So with that said, let's dive right into it. And let's kick it off with a Bible verse that encompasses the overall theme of this lesson. Matthew 5 verse 37 tells us, "Let your communication be yes, yes, no, no. For whatsoever is more than these cometh of evil." Translation into normal English, modern English. Let your yes be yes. Let your decision be final. If it's a no, it's a no. Don't do maybes or I'm not sure's. You want a strict yes or no. You want it to be black and white when it's with serious matters. How does this relate to deal breakers? You're going to find out. It's a final cut yes. You don't dilly-daddle. You don't want to be unsure or going back and forth. This is why we see couples break up and get back together after 20 abusive fights and it goes nowhere. Because it's not final. You have to get your values right. So with that said, let's start. What is a deal breaker? A deal breaker is a behavior, a value, or an issue which nullifies a woman from becoming your wife. This means there is no more chances, there is no what ifs. You have 100% assurance based on things she has said or done, whether in pattern or in one full sweep, that completely disqualify her from ever being the mother of your children. When it comes to putting in boundaries, you can offer a way for a woman to improve her attitude, maybe grow as a person and treat you correctly. You have a little argument, that's fine. But a deal breaker, it's enough for you to end dating her or your boyfriend-girlfriend situation completely. No looking back. That's how you have to be firm with. So how do you set boundaries? Now that you know, how do you set a deal breaker if you now know what one is? Simple. When you have righteous standards and boundaries, as a consequence, you will naturally develop your deal breakers too. And one of the popular things I've always said on this channel is the red flags you ignore in the beginning always become the deal breakers in the end. And a lot of men don't have solid standards. And because of that, they set weak boundaries, or they don't know how to communicate effectively or implement how they expect to be treated properly. And as a consequence, when they spot things that make the woman unsuitable for marriage, they try and stay. They try and fix or change her. So it all stems from the root, which is your standards. And if you'd like to learn more and master relationships righteously, go to my website at relearningrelationships.com or click the first link in the description and book a call with me to see if relationship mastery is suitable for you. Continuing on. So deal breakers, they've been used righteously, in other words, properly, or immorally, in the wrong way. And the key is always to examine the motive. This is why you have to be so careful to the relationship advice that you see on the internet. You have to cross-examine and make sure that objectively it is right. Because there's feminism, there's red pill, there's a lot of damaged men and women that are so bitter towards the opposite sex that their very way of thinking and their mindset comes out in their behavior. And they do things to hurt and punish the opposite gender, which is not loving. As it says in scripture, there is no punishment in love. So you have to understand that there are immoral deal breakers and righteous deal breakers. Immoral deal breakers is when we see insecure, ungodly, or lustful men. And what they will do is either end a relationship or temporarily walk away or use different forms of emotional abuse in hopes to manipulate the woman's interest level to cause suffering or to make her jealous. In other words, I'm going to break up with you if you don't do this. You make a threat. If you don't do that, I'm going to do this. You manipulate, you blackmail. You walk away and try and make her jealous by doing something immoral, going out to a club or being around other women to try and get her to come back. And we see a lot of advice like this from the Red Pill community. You've got to keep the woman on her toes. She should never know that you're loyal to her. Do things to hurt her, disappear, ghost her, turn your phone off for 2 days. This will teach her a lesson. This isn't normal, righteous behavior. This isn't how you treat someone you love or someone you don't love. It's not right at all. And the thing is, these men don't actually have the intention to walk away. They just want to control the woman because they don't understand how to really be dominant or masculine. They're playing a character. They're not genuine. So they're faking their masculinity. So they have to use power plays and different tactics or strategies to manipulate a woman to act right. Whereas if you are a godly man, you understand that if you treat a woman well, she will act right, so long as she genuinely desires you and her values are right. But if she isn't a good woman, she's never going to act right. And you should just walk away. But these men get into relationships based on their ego. It's based on pride. It's all vain. They don't really want a wife. They want a woman that they can use for sex, or a woman that makes them look good in the eyes of the world. So because of that, they get back with these women. They use them for sex. You see these toxic cycles of abusive relationships, and it just does more damage to men and women. This is pointless. But a lot of men get this wrong. So instead of walking away from a woman that's not right for them, they want to try and change her. They want to control her to satisfy their ego. And this is why we see these toxic relationships that end in emotional burnout. This is why so many men and women grow cold and they don't want to be in a relationship. You deal with one psycho like that, you're done for a long time. So prevention is better than cure. And this is not the way to do it. A lot of young guys take advice from older men they're unmarried, they were never married, or they can't keep a good woman in their life. And you hear all this, red pill advice. You've got to punish the girl, you have to teach her a lesson. Tactics and strategies don't work. Only true principles based on love do. And this is not the way, gentlemen. What is the way? The way is to use a righteous deal breaker. Righteous meaning what's right in the eyes of God, His blueprint, His standard of living for us. So honorable men, good men, if they're getting to know a girl, they're dating her, they're courting her, or maybe they're a couple, they will walk away if they conclude, these are for the guys that are in the cure section. If you're in a relationship with a girl and you come to find that things are not as they were, she's not suitable for marriage, what you're going to do is, if you're a good man, is now you just walk away. You calmly communicate, you offer closure, or you walk away for good. And if you guys are in the prevention section and you've gone on a few dates, or you've had a few phone calls and you find that she ain't wife material, you follow the same pattern. And it's going to be even easier for you because you're not invested emotionally as the guy in a relationship. But all in all, this is what creates a safe way to end the interaction without any further problems. You don't need to slander her name. You don't need to manipulate her or blackmail her or do anything out of vengeance. You don't need to make her jealous. You don't need to tell her that she's a wicked, evil person and that she doesn't deserve love. You just have to walk away and give her the reason why. Because oftentimes, you may meet a woman who's not wife material because she's not at a place in her life where she's ready for that. So you just have to let her go. She's going to be better off suitable for another man. Maybe she grows in the future and prepares herself for marriage and she is a good wife, but she's just not for you. So walk away and do not be bitter. It's not right. Again, this creates a safe way to end the interaction and no further problems will ensue. So everybody wins. So now let's discuss how to actually build these righteous deal breakers. So the reasons for which you should walk away are going to be red flags, incompatibility, abusive behavior, or a one-sided relationship. In a nutshell, these are the only 4 reasons you should ever completely cut a woman off. The quote that I've mentioned already in the video earlier, the red flags you ignore in the beginning always become the deal breakers in the end, right? Let's start with red flags. When a girl displays one or multiple red flags, it always comes down to her having or being stuck in unrepentant sin. In other words, her mindset, she hasn't turned to God. She's living a very worldly, godless lifestyle, which does not make her suitable for marriage. Or she has unresolved trauma, unforgiveness, bitterness. She has wounds or issues from her childhood or past relationships that she's just not healed from. So she's stuck there. She's not present with you. If a girl's stuck in the past and she's not present, she ain't going to be thinking about the future and marriage and children. And if she is, she's using it as an escape. Even then, she still wouldn't be a good wife or mother because she's not present enough to understand what is required of her to be a godly wife, how to even make certain that you are a good husband. Women who have red flags, they're not serious about vetting you for marriage. Only women who are godly are. So please be mindful of that. And here are some of the examples that come from red flags on the screen. A girl who's a feminist. Again, I did a video recently on the channel, why you need to avoid modern women that are feminists. You can find it. Girls who, obviously if she's a feminist, it goes to say typically doesn't want children or thinks everything's 50-50, hates God, hates the family structure, not traditional, right? A girl who's very vain, so a woman who's very vulgar, who her attitude towards life is very selfish, very materialistic. Women like that do not make good wives. This is just common sense, right? A girl who's immodest, she doesn't clothe herself appropriately, doesn't take good care of her appearance. These are typically the girls that are very insecure, have very low self-esteem, always comparing herself to other women, always wanting external validation. These are going to be the girls who sometimes, and sadly, get plastic surgery. They modify their appearance because they're not happy with how God made them. And if she doesn't accept herself, she's not going to accept the love from anyone else, including you, and she won't even have much love to give. See how it all starts with God? If you're not right with the Lord, you're not going to know how to love others or be lovable. So, you can't give, you can't receive if your soul isn't right. The next up would be, as an example of a red flag, would be an immoral lifestyle. These are going to be the girls that are, club sluts, party girls, drinking, smoking, maybe even taking other drugs. They're damaging their health. They're putting themselves in situations that are dangerous around other men, which indicates that she does not value her life. Oftentimes, these girls may have an SMI, a severe mental illness, schizophrenic, BPD, something of the sort, which can result from trauma, health issues, and even from living such a terrible lifestyle. It does happen as well. Women like that are in no place emotionally or mentally to bond with you or be a wife. Walk away. Another red flag is just something basic to throw out here is going to be dishonesty. You catch her in lots of white lies. She lies about past. She lies about who she is, things about her identity. Again, you cannot be in a relationship with someone who consistently lies to you, right? If trust and honesty are the foundation of commitment, common sense. If she's lying to you now and you don't have a ring on a finger, how do you think it's going to be in the future? Because I want to make that very clear to you guys watching. A ring doesn't make her a wife. Wedding vows don't make her a wife. Walking her down the aisle and taking your last name doesn't make her a wife. Proverbs 18:22 tells us, whoso findeth a wife findeth a good thing and obtains favour of the Lord. You don't make a wife or build a wife or fix a wife or change her into a wife. You find a wife. She's already done the work to be wifely. She's lovable, she's feminine, she's soft. She values wifehood and motherhood. Or at the very least, she's willing to learn. She has the qualities. She has the characteristics of a good, godly woman. That's her duty. That's her responsibility, right? It's not yours. So if a woman's dishonest and you have to fix and change her, it's a red flag, guys. Okay? And finally, I'd say here, a girl that does not value sexual purity. Guys, women who, especially if you're somebody who was watching and you have a low body count, or you're waiting to marry, you're a Christian, you're very, those are your values. Going for a girl who's been ran through by multiple men, she's had a very lascivious sexual lifestyle, she's going to damage her ability to pair bond. All the stats show when women go over 3 to 4 bodies, typically they don't bond as well as the women who have less. There are variable factors. And yes, a woman who has turned from her lifestyle, if she's equally yoked, she has a similar sexual past to you, you're going to be better off together. But if you're a guy who does value your sexual purity and you've lived that well, you deserve a woman who offers you the same. Don't fall for it. Once a hoe, always a hoe, right? You can't turn a hoe into a housewife. So in a nutshell, I could go through a list of 20 more red flags, but a lot of it, again, do your homework, do your research. Understand that if there are any red flags that you turn a blind eye to, it becomes a deal breaker. The moment you spot a red flag, either you catch it at the beginning and you walk, or you catch it later on and you were forced to walk away. Okay? You can't have a relationship with a woman like that. You can't marry a woman like that. If there's anything, remember, any behavior, any values, or anything that's important to you, or any issue in the relationship comes to light, that nullifies her from ever being your wife, you have to act on it by walking away. And red flags are the primary reason. Because if there's a red flag, there's typically going to be other things like her being incompatible with the next thing, or abusive behavior, or one-sided relationships. Because a woman that is good for you has no red flags. She's compatible with you. Her behavior to you is good. And there's a mutual beneficial relationship consistently, in which you don't ever need to implement a deal breaker. You've got to understand, courting a woman and vetting her, making sure she's right for you, you should only be doing this in the dating stage. Once you're in a relationship, you guys get engaged and you move to get married, there should be no more doubts or worries about, does she have red flags? Is there something wrong with her? Can I trust her? Can I open up to her? If you're still doing that, you just didn't vet her properly from the beginning. And again, I've been in bad relationships when I was younger. I wasn't obviously suitable for marriage either back then. I've done case studies from men from all over Europe, America, Canada, Asia, some from Africa, some from down south in Australia, some even from South America. 20s, 30s, 40s, even 50-year-old men, and the pattern is always the same. If you are stuck in a relationship with the wrong woman and you get married to her and there's all of a sudden red flags, it's not because the red flags just dropped from the skies and she was hiding it for 10 years. You can hide it for 60, 90 days, Beyond that point, you just turned a blind eye. You had a very, very big knowledge gap, because the red flags were always going to be there from the beginning. They might be hidden to some degree, but by asking quality questions, by observing patterns in words and actions, and truly getting to know that person well with intention, you can figure them out very soon. It doesn't just happen years later. So for some guys watching this that want to be crybabies and say that, oh, marriage is bad and you can't trust women and all women are the same, all you're revealing to me is that you have low standards. And it's only harder to get a good woman if you're not a good man. And that you've been dating the wrong sort of woman. When I became a better man and I followed after God's righteousness and I did it right, I got myself a wife, an amazing woman, which is a reflection of me. There's no two ways about it. Because if you're faking something, gentlemen, and you're not a godly man, you're always going to be sent trash women. Because like attracts like. You may find a good woman, but you won't keep her. Because a good woman is going to vet you hard. And they want a good, godly man that they're attracted to. Not a weak man who's faking his worth, faking his integrity. So either way, your relationship's always going to reflect back to the world and to you, who you really are. Please take this seriously. And I don't want to hear any more stories about, but the red flags, women can hide it for years. You just don't know how to vet a woman properly. That's what's really going on. There's no two ways about it. They don't pop up after 5 years. They're always going to be there at the beginning. You just turned a blind eye. You didn't know any better. Hands down, every single case study I've done, I always ask the guys, really? So she just suddenly turned out to be psycho after 7 years of marriage? And then they finally open up. Well, not really. At the beginning, there was this. And they didn't even ask proper questions at the beginning. So if you're in the cure section of the video and you're in a terrible relationship, look at the man in the mirror. You've come to the right place and I'm grateful that you're here on this channel, but please take your life seriously. Don't waste your time with the wrong woman. This is why prevention is always better, because it never gets to this point. You can weed out and you can put in a deal breaker in the first few weeks, first couple of months, which makes it so much easier to walk away versus 6 months, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. That's harder. That's what breaks people. It doesn't have to be that way. But either way, whether you're in a relationship or you're single, you've just started to get to know a girl, take this stuff seriously. Take notes even. So understand if there's red flags, gotta walk. Next up is incompatibility. The second righteous deal breaker to implement is that a woman is not compatible with you. As it says in scripture, Amos 3 verse 3, how can two walk together lest they be agreed? If you don't have the same values, you don't want the same things out of life, you don't have the same faith, how can you relate? How can you be on the same page? Always worrying about what they think, are they going to agree with me? It's not worth it. So your values, your lifestyle choices and your belief systems do not align. In other words, she's not a Proverbs 31 woman. For those of you who do not know what that is, if you go to the Bible, Proverbs 31 verse 1 through 31, it gives you a vivid description of what God says a good wife is. All the qualities and characteristics that make a woman worth marrying. And objectively, the blueprint has stood the test of time. All my clients that have good women in their lives, they followed the blueprint. I did it myself when I met my dear wife. That's what I teach to all men. Because it's timeless, it stands. It's always going to be like that. So that is the objective blueprint you follow. And the examples of a woman here being incompatible are going to be girls that detest wifehood and motherhood. They don't want children. They don't want marriage. Or they do want marriage, but in a modernized way, not in a way where they're going to serve and honor their husband. They don't want to do their duties. A girl who perhaps has a different faith to you. You're a Christian and she's a Muslim. Or you're Orthodox and she's atheist. You're a Catholic and she's a Jew. You're not going to be compatible. You're not. Maybe you're from a different culture. I mean, this is just common sense. People that are from different parts of the world grow up with different traditions, different values, and their lifestyles are structured differently. And you don't want to compromise on that, because if you compromise a cultural standard that you have or vice versa, now you're holding back. Now you've changed the other person. And there is no love in that. Love is freedom. Love expands. It expresses itself. And if you stop someone from being who they are, or adopting, or develop, or living out the values that they have, you control them. Which means they're going to love you a little bit less. They're going to close themselves off. And your relationship will have problems. Which is why you need to find someone you're compatible with, gentlemen. And a lot of men, you might meet a girl who, again, this is all connected. If you're incompatible, there's going to be red flags. But you might meet a very sweet girl who on the forefront doesn't have any problems. And maybe just something as simple as you wanting one child and her wanting 6. Because there's some Catholic, Orthodox women that like a huge amount of children. Even with that, how do you compromise? Well, I guess I'll have 2 kids and then maybe we have 4 if we kind of agree. No. One of you is going to end up miserable. But even with that, as long as you both want children, there are ways you can work through it. But there are people who are so strict, they're just not going to compromise. Or for whatever reason, she's had a hysterectomy and she can't have children, and you do want children. You're not going to agree. Maybe she wants to only adopt kids and you don't ever want to adopt kids. You want your own. You're never going to agree. Walk away. You have a different lifestyle because of your different values. You're a guy who likes to chill, stay home on the weekend, maybe cook a nice meal, watch a movie together. Or do some other type of personal activity together. But her lifestyle is clubbing and partying, as we discussed earlier. She's going to think you're boring because you're not coming out with her, and you're going to think she's boring because she's out all the time. How can you relate? You don't. Different politics. You're a conservative Christian and she's an atheist liberal. You're not going to get along. And there's so many people, they just look at the attraction, the physical, which is important. Looks get you in the door, right? And this is why they stay. Yeah, but Christian, she's really hot. Yeah, but she's an atheist and a feminist and she doesn't want kids. And you want 3 kids and you want to be married and she doesn't. How do you leverage that? How do you come to an agreement? You can't. If you're a Christian man who wants to be married and you want 2 to 3 children and you want to live a peaceful, humble lifestyle, find a woman who wants the same. And then you're compatible. How simple is that? And unfortunately, a lot of people date or they get into relationships that go long past the expiration date because they're incompatible. And if you haven't discussed these things from the get-go, they will come out later on, which is where most people, again, screw up. They don't discuss these things from the get-go, so they're in a 5-month relationship discussing, do you want kids? And the girl's like, not really. And the guy wants 4 and he's all worried now. I'm telling you because I've done it myself when I was younger. You wait months and months to talk about these things because society tells you you shouldn't be serious about marriage. You shouldn't be firm. You shouldn't ask these things from the beginning. Go with the flow and see where it goes. And I'll tell you where it goes. Heartbreak, time wasted, money spent, that you never get back. Don't do it. Prevention is better than cure. Cure is still okay, not as good as prevention. There's always more scars that are left behind after the cure. For the single guys, or you've just met a girl, take it seriously. If you're not compatible, she's not serious about marriage, she's not passionate about children, she doesn't want what you want, walk. It's that simple. Okay, so the next one up is abusive behavior. So this is emotional or and physical harm, which translates to her being a dangerous individual. Now, traditionally speaking, when we think of an abusive man, it's the guy who hits the woman, right? He controls her finances. He doesn't hit her out. You know, the woman's got a black eye and she has to cover it up with makeup, right? That's traditionally what we think of when it comes to abusive behavior. But there are cases of women who do that to men, which is low. But women will typically abuse the man emotionally in other ways, withholding intimacy and affection. So trying to do things in a blackmailing manner to make you jealous, right? Changing the locks, changing the passwords, like doing weird things like that to you where she's controlling you. Remember, if a woman is to be your wife, she's going to follow your lead. She knows that you're a trustworthy man, So she submits to your leadership. All submission means is trust. You're a good man, she trusts you, and she lets you lead the relationship. If a woman is already showing you from the beginning, when she doesn't get her way, that she's going to cross her arms, she's going to start blackmailing you, making threats, saying and doing things to manipulate you, speak badly about you onto others to change and taint your reputation, right? There's guys that stay with women like this. This is going to be with like the really evil, narcissistic, Jezebelic women. It doesn't happen often, but this is a deal breaker because there are women like that. And ultimately, you can only be manipulated if you're a weak man. Because if this happens to you once and you're a strong guy, you're walking away. And a good woman is never going to do this to you. Case in point, what I mentioned earlier. If you go to the Proverbs 31 Bible verse, it tells us that a good woman does good to her husband all the days of her life and no harm. Good women treat you well. Bad women don't. This isn't like a little argument where you guys have a misunderstanding and she gets upset and says you're a jerk and she starts crying and comes back in 10 minutes, gives you a hug and you talk it out. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a woman that is selfish. A woman that when she doesn't get her way, she's going to threaten you. She's going to go after your reputation. She's going to go after your career, your business. She's going to use things like maybe sex and other forms of intimacy to manipulate you, to get you to do something or do what she wants. The next up is going to be betrayal or infidelity. Cheating isn't just physical, it starts as something emotional. Again, a woman who is getting too close to men of the opposite sex. She's using other men to get you jealous. She likes to flirt with other men. You catch her checking out other men, right? She's getting a little bit too close. That's an instant deal breaker because then there's no trust. A good woman doesn't... If a good woman thinks that you're a godly man and you're going to treat her well, she'll stay with you no matter what, and she'll be loyal to you all the days of her life. Unfaithful women, these are typically the girls that are not, they don't care about being a wife. They don't care about honoring any vows. They don't care about integrity. They treat people how they want to be treated. And again, before some guy starts crying that all women are like this, there's a lot of men that cheat on women too. There's a lot of men that make terrible husbands and they're not ready to be husbands. But in this case, women that show you from their past that they've betrayed other men, or you start to see little warning signs that she's betraying you, hiding her phone, getting close to other men, putting herself in environments where lustful men can get close to her. You start to see she kind of like enjoys the attention. She likes to be looked at by other men. She's more focused on other men or any man who isn't you. That's a problem. Finding out she physically cheated on you with another man, yes, that's infidelity, that's cheating. But emotionally, her texting another guy, exchanging contact info, letting other men continue to flirt with her, that's a slippery slope. Good women, they nip that in the bud. They don't even let men get an inch. If a guy comes up to her and she's a good woman, she tells the guy to get lost. If she's on social media and the guy DMs her, she shows you, hey honey, look, a guy messaged me. You both laugh about it. She deletes and blocks the guy. Unfaithful women, there's patterns there. There's cues in their behavior. You're going to catch her staring. She's going to be open and receptive to other attention from other men. Be very careful because you know where that leads. And this is abusive behavior because she's violating the sanctity of your commitment, which is trust, respect, intimacy. And finally, of course, physical abuse. It's rare, but there are women who they piss the guy off and they say, go on then, hit me. You don't have the balls. Or they will start hitting the guy, pulling a knife on him, throwing things at him, threatening him physically, and then actually going ahead and doing it because they know that typically most men won't fight back and they shouldn't anyway. You just walk away. That's not a good sign. You want to have kids with a woman that does that to you? I think not. So again, any form of infidelity, emotional or physical abuse, any type of blackmail or manipulative behavior, these are all indicating that this woman is Machiavellian. She's typically higher on the narcissistic spectrum, and she's just not suitable for empathy, for commitment and love. and you should walk away. And finally, the fourth and final reason for which a deal breaker is righteous objectively is that you are in a one-sided relationship. And this one is very painful, but it all ties together. Because if there's red flags, there's a risk that some type of abusive behavior is going to come out. If you're incompatible, there's a risk that you're going to be in a one-sided relationship. What do I mean by this? When a relationship is one-sided, there's a pattern of low interest or boundary violation, which indicates that the woman settled for you. Translation, if she settles for you, it means she's lowered her standard. She doesn't really think you're handsome or her type physically. Let me explain with examples. Everybody has a type. I've made videos about this. You can check them out on the channel. My type is blonde to brunette, light blue eyes like me. That's why my wife looks similar. That's my type. There's beautiful women in all shapes and all colors, and everybody has a type. But if you're only gonna share your life with one woman, you have one shot for the rest of your life. So by me narrowing it down to one type, to a woman I actually desire, I'm gonna honor her. I'm gonna want to be intimate and passionate with her because I like what I see. She's my type. If I were to be with a girl that I didn't desire, I'd be doing her a dishonor and a disservice because I don't find her attractive. I'm faking it. And that's not fair to her because no woman deserves to be with a man that doesn't desire her. Likewise, gentlemen, no man deserves to be with a woman that doesn't desire him. And the same thing can happen if you flip the situation of what I just explained. There are women who, whether it's low self-esteem, lack of knowledge gap, or they just throw in the towel. They've had bad relationships and they just choose the first guy who comes along, and that's you. If you're not her type, she doesn't think you're a 10 out of 10, she does not think you're handsome, she's always going to be wondering in the back of her mind, did I make the right choice? Is this guy right for me? Do I really want him? And again, money can't create sexual tension and desire. Okay? You being masculine and confident only creates more of an emotional connection and more emotional attraction if there's physical desire to begin with. So if looks have to get you in the door first, if she doesn't think you're her type, she's lowered her standard, she's settled. And to some degree, she's going to think she's missing out. And if this happens, you'll notice it. She doesn't really compliment you. She doesn't look at you with the sparkle in her eye. She doesn't want to hold you. She doesn't want to put her arm, hold your arm when you're walking. She's not telling her girlfriends and her family about you. She's ashamed to be seen with you. She doesn't really want a label or be committed to you because she feels like you're not it. You're not the guy for her. She closes herself off from you physically. She doesn't really put an effort in her appearance, right? So if you're not her type, you're going to see low interest. And when a girl has low interest, she's typically not going to treat you right. So she's going to start violating your boundaries, walking all over you, disrespecting you, not treating you well. Because you're just not it. It sucks, but this happens. And it takes two people to keep a one-sided relationship going. The only reason a woman who doesn't think you're it stays with you is because you're the best option she has. And she's lowered her standard because of low self-esteem. So she's kind of in the relationship to just have some type of companionship, but she's not giving to it. And you're the one who's pouring everything in and carrying everything, but she's not even receiving properly what you're giving her because you're not it. Happens with men too. There's men out there who settle for a woman who's crazy about him, and it's the same thing. The guy he just doesn't put effort into the relationship. He doesn't court the woman, he doesn't romance her because he's just not into her. He has low self-esteem and he's settled for her too. So you don't be the guy who does that either. It's not right either way. So again, if you're not her type, you're going to start to see a pattern of her just having low interest consistently. Whereas when you're with a woman that there's mutual desire, both of your feelings grow over time. The next thing is, you will be in a one-sided relationship if there are any signs that she's still emotionally invested in an ex. If she's had children with an ex, which again, unless you're a single dad, you should not be dating single mothers. She's going to be somewhat invested with the other man. If she's just come out of a long-term relationship, or she was with a relationship with a man and it was maybe very abusive or toxic, and she's gotten into a relationship with you soon after, she's in no mental headspace to bond with you or give to you. And this is when you'll see the girl like talking about the ex, or the ex is still in the background, or she still cries about him. She's just, you either know from her or from other people that she's just not over him. And because of that, she's stuck in the past, she's not present, she can't engage with you emotionally. So it's a one-sided relationship. And she's most likely dating you because she's got low self-esteem. Avoid such women. You deserve a woman who has a clean slate, she's ready, willing, and able to date. Okay? This is obvious, but it does happen. When you spot this, because sometimes a girl can hide it, right? Some girls will tell you at the beginning, yeah, I have an ex and we still talk, walk away. Whereas some girls will hide it, but it will start to come out after a few weeks or a few months. The more you dig, the more you ask, the more you research and look into her as a person, the more you're going to find. And if you find out later on, it will make sense. No wonder it's one-sided. No wonder she's kind of going with the flow. Because then it translates into other things. If you're not her type, or there's an ex in the background and the girl's just going along with it, she's just not serious about being a wife, she's not going to put in that effort. She's not going to bring up engagement. She's not going to talk about marriage. She's not really asking you lots of questions about you, your past. Whereas when you meet a girl who's serious about marriage, man, she's got like 500 questions for you. She wants to know everything about you. She's fascinated by you. She's in awe by you. That's how you know it's right. So if you don't see that effort, there's just that low interest, she's not it. She's not wife material. Walk away. And finally, the girl's emotionally cold. She's distant. Her feelings haven't developed for you. It's been months and months, and she's just not feeling any love. Her attraction is very low. She breaks dates. She kind of like disappears. Whenever you text her or call her, she takes ages to get back to you. It always seems like other things are more important to her. Whereas when you're with a girl that really desires you and really wants you, guess what? She's all in. She's invested in you. She's emotionally warm to you. She's receptive to you. She's grateful for you. She takes that presence that you give her and she loves it. But a woman that doesn't really feel that way because for whatever reason, you're not a type, ex in the background, or she's just not serious about you, she's never going to be a good wife to you. Even if she goes along with it for months and months or years and years, she might say yes with her words, but her actions will always reveal her intention. Guys, there's nothing worse. Don't be in a one-sided relationship. This disqualifies a woman from being your wife. So guys, with that said, that's it. That's the video. These are the righteous deal breakers. Red flags of any kind. You're incompatible in your values, what's important to you, your marriage, children, all those things you just don't align. Abusive behavior of any kind, which destroys the sanctity of a relationship, or it's one-sided. You're dragging it along. In any effect, whether you spot these red flags and these problems from a first phone call, first interaction, first 2 to 3 weeks, that's prevention. Walk away. If you've been getting to know the girl for a few months, you're a little bit more invested, maybe even years, but you're not married yet, you just need the cure. And it's to implement one of these deal breakers and to walk away. This is all you've got to do. So gentlemen, that's been today's video on deal breakers. Let me know down below what you think and share this with someone who's in a terrible relationship and they should walk away. And if you'd like to get my help personally and learn more about what I teach, you can sign up to Relationship Mastery. As I mentioned earlier, link down below in the description. Or you can join my Relearning Relationships community where you get personal access to me and join and see all the other little goodies that I put there. So with that said, hope you'll have a wonderful day. God bless all of you and your families. I'll see you in the next one.